Welcome, everyone, to the Union Federation podcast, where we discuss both Star Trek and the Orville here on the Fandom Podcast Network. My name is Kevin. I'll be your captain. This is Union Federation episode 221 for Star Trek Strange New World Season 3, episode 4. We are discussing a space adventure hour. Got a lot of fun here for you guys going on this. I'm really excited. This is also the Fandom Podcast Network. You can also find this show on the BQN network as well. Make sure you check us out, and also go ahead and hit that QR code up there if you're listening or watching us on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. Take us straight to our website there. Again, we are discussing Star Trek Strange New World Season 3. Do a little pause there if you catch my drift. And I kind of feel like for this type of show, I think I need my sleuth hat on right there. You guys check that out. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into discussing who's going to be helping us. Now, I need a top-notch science officer with us here, someone that will be able to kind of help with the holodecks. And I think that we should go ahead and bring on the lovely Haley. What's going on?
Oh, I'm here. I'm running around doing lots of things, trying to keep everything going, not asking for help, because that's how we do it.
I have my sleuth hat on. How do I look?
It's very dashing.
Well, it is good to have you. I'm excited to get your thoughts on this episode. But first, we can't go any further here because, of course, I need to bring in my co-captain and security and weapons officer, Mr. Kyle Wagner. What's going on, buddy?
Am I here or am I not? But I do know one thing about this episode. I wrote all the jurisdiction for this episode.
Well played, sir. I like that. Well, we got some fun times coming up on this episode for sure, but we do want to let you guys know what else is happening on the Fandom Podcast Network, specifically the Union Federation. Of course, last year we did a great Star Trek Next Generation podcast, a limited podcast, discussing every two-part episode. We also discussed Season 5, the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks. We gave our thoughts on Star Trek Section 31, the movie, and of course, more recently, we just did a 10-episode limited series discussing the Orville and highlighting the crew members, specifically too, not just the crew members, but also the guests and cast members and reoccurring members that were Star Trek alumni. So make sure you check that out. But we, of course, are discussing Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. It's in its 10-episode run, and we are on episode 4 right now. And if you want, go ahead and check the previous episodes that we did for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. But we've got Star Trek Strange New Worlds, episode 4, season 3, A Space Adventure Hour. All right, that is the sound of our first away mission, guys. And Haley, I was wondering if you could do us a big favor and go ahead and hit the Admiral's episode log. Sorry, though. We got to do a spoiler alert. Kyle, do you want to do it this time?
Oh, can I push the button, please?
We are talking about the Space Adventure Hour here on the Fandom Podcast Network's Union Federation for Strange New Worlds. And Haley, I know that you got us a good Admiral's episode log synopsis.
La'an is tasked with testing the quote-unquote holodeck, a new holographic simulator, and asks the computer to create a murder mystery for her to solve. It generates a scenario featuring the cast and crew of a 1960s science fiction series called The Last Frontier, using the likenesses of people who have boarded the Enterprise. As the story gets more involved, La'an asks for Spock's help. Scott attempts to single-handedly balance the large amount of power required to run the holodeck with the ship's other needs, barely allowing it to escape damage from a collapsing neutron star. When La'an is trapped and the holodeck's safety protocols fail, Scott sends a message explaining that she must solve the mystery to end the simulation. La'an, who has grown close to Spock during dance lessons over recent months, realizes that the Spock she is with is a hologram and the murderer. The simulation ends, and La'an recommends holodecks not be approved for general use until the technology is improved. Number 1 encourages Scott to ask for help in the future. During another dance lesson, La'an and the real Spock kiss.
Ooh, all right, guys. I want to get your first reactions to this episode. Definitely a fun one, Kyle. I'm gonna let you go first here. What you got for us?
Well, first, I do want to put a warning out to all the listeners out there who might be watching on YouTube or listening on our great podcast feeds. I did spend the week with Boimler and Mariner, and I came away with some kind of Narsargian head cold or something like that. I'm still full of different sprays and things from Med Bay, and it's the Lower Decks crew. I don't know how I'm going to be on this podcast, so I just wanted to give a forewarning to everybody of that first. But no, this is one of the more interesting episodes of Strange New Worlds, and it's like I was talking about a couple weeks ago. The great thing about Strange New Worlds is they're not afraid to take chances. And this, I mean, we haven't had a holodeck episode like this in a good while because really, Discovery, there wasn't a place for it because pre-holodeck, even once they got into the future. So it was fun to kind of revisit it and see the aspects of like an early trial of the holodeck, even though it felt a little out of place to me just within the timeline. But you could tell how much fun they were having by just being able to kick in their overacting chops. And I got to give special love to Paul Wesley in this episode because talk about nailing a performance. He was perfect. He was a dream in this episode. And I just got to say this too. Is Spock the new Lothario of Star Trek? Has he replaced Kirk?
The new what?
Lothario. Or, he's romancing all the ladies now.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, he replaced Kirk. I mean,
well, yeah, that's a good question to bring up. All right, Haley, your first reactions to a space adventure hour.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is my favorite episode so far of the season. This was brilliant. And I know we were chatting about it, and I was the first to say anything, and you two hadn't watched the episode yet. And because I watched it on my lunch on Thursday at work, and I just, oh my gosh, if it had been this last frontier, if that had kind of been the whole episode, like I was down for just that. I didn't even need like the other stuff, but I think the writing and putting all of this together and kind of giving us a reason like why there's the holodecks later on and why we don't have them now, and then also integrating how we're going to see Scotty become Scotty and learning the crew and learning himself and the ship, and that we know that he just loves and knows in and out completely. It was just absolutely fantastic. I love the idea that, while La'an's doing this task, the rest of the crew is monitoring this neutron star. And neutron stars are immensely dense, and they're very fascinating. If you haven't read up about neutron stars, I highly recommend it. It is quite fascinating when they collapse because they're so heavy, they actually create a black hole. So that was just really mind-blowing. And I have to say, if I had a print, like a large print of the ship diving to escape the gamma radiation wave that's coming out, like that visually was beautiful. I could have like a large canvas of that on my wall and I would love it.
Ah, that's cool. Yeah, visually this episode was fantastic. And I think also too, I want to give a nod to the costume designer and the prop designers on this. It was a love letter to Star Trek of days of yore, as they might say. And I think they had a lot of fun on this. And I like it when you not just only have a fun episode, but you can definitely tell the cast is having fun. They're stepping out of character a little bit. They're wearing some new outfits. And I was always kind of curious about like how would Star Trek Strange New Worlds, well, how would they do a holodeck episode, even though wait a minute, they didn't really have holodeck episodes, but I guess that they experimented with it and they put them on the back burner. And just the scene too when La'an walks into the simulator for the first time, it gives you that TNG vibe of the holodeck, with the black room and the yellow lines and everything. And it's just like the production designer and set decorators of this show were just nailing it. it was it was pretty cool. I did want to bring an observation. I just wanted to put out there some food for thought. Now, I love me some romance in Star Trek, right, guys? I love that. It's one of the things I love about Star Trek. Some Star Trek does it better than others. But I got to ask you, things are heating up right now between La'an and Spock here. And I don't know if you know this or not, but dancing, it's pretty sexy when both people are into it. And, whether you're watching Dancing with the Stars or all those dance movies and stuff, when they start doing the sexy stuff, like the tango's got to be one of the sexiest, dances out there. So my question is this one of the sexiest episodes ever? Because that was some hardcore foreplay, if you ask me. And seeing La'an dressed the way that she was and the way that Spock, Ethan Peck, portraying, learning these dances that we got a little taste of from the Wedding Bell Blues episode. I was going like, I'm trying to look back at all the other previous episodes of Star Trek. I look at several of the romances. I mean, we've gotten some like Hallmarky type stuff, when it comes like Hallmark type of romance. But I gotta tell you, this was damn hot. If you ask me. Kyle, you're burning to say something. What say you?
Well, first of all, Kevin, we're both fans of True Lies. We know how powerful the power of the tango is. If you've seen True Lies.
It's true. Yeah.
As for sexiest episodes, this is near the top. The only other one that really comes to mind, and it's the TNG episode. You guys will know the episode as soon as I say it, where they all get infected, and we see Data go to check on Tasha Yar, and she's wearing that dress.
Yeah,
that wasn't a dress.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
that
the first.
Outfit.
That was the first season. That's right. Yeah, they were kind of testing stuff.
That might be that.
The naked now. Was it the naked now? Was that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Crusher flirting with Picard.
Yeah, it was a playoff of the TOS episode too. But yeah, that one was definitely there. But I mean, when you throw in the dance here, and especially with Christina Chong's experience doing dance, and Haley, cool me off here. What do you think?
No, if I remember right, because I did dance long time ago, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the tango actually is called the Forbidden Dance because it is so passionate and so intense. Like if you think about the waltz people, when you dance it, you're not looking at each other. When La'an goes in and Spock is doing in place of calisthenics, I'm doing dance, which actually is really good. It really works a lot of your smaller muscles, ligaments, and tendons, which is really good for you. You need to not just work the big muscle groups, but you could kind of see it then, but he says to her, eyes up. And the tango is one of those very few dances where the dancers look at each other the whole time. There is no break in eye contact. And that lends to a lot of emotion passing, even if they aren't attracted to each other in any capacity and don't have a history of any type of thing. It is very passionate. It is a very passionate dance. And so it was pretty sexy. I'm not going to lie. And I'm not a big, I don't need the romance in my Trek, but it was smoking.
And there's a look that La'an gives to Spock at the end of Wedding Bell Blues too, where she's starting to see him in another light. And it kind of just comes to a crescendo in this. Kyle?
I'm just looking at the titles, and I think one of them magically changed on me because I think there's an episode this weekend called Lambada, The Final Frontier.
In a little cross promotion, actually, Kyle, we have been doing Time Warp 1990 here on the network, where we discuss an entire year of movies monthly. And what was funny was back in, I think it was March of 1990, if I remember correctly, we've already recorded the episode. There was 2 Lambada movies that came out, and they also came out on the same weekend. One was called Lambada, and one was called The Forbidden Dance. And they both came out, and they're sexy dances. So yeah. By the way, I just want to say real quick, I found Reddit. I looked up on Reddit what people were saying about this, and a user from Reddit said, "This season ended my crush on Jess Bush. My new crush is Christina Chong. These dance outfits are something else."
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put that out there because it made me kind of go,
You know what I think is interesting is these two, from what we've seen of Lon's character, she is very, right or wrong, black and white, which is very, very Vulcan, right? And so I think they have so much in common as far as their personalities are. It's not surprising to see that they would be attracted to each other, and granted, it is the show writers and everything and whatnot, but it's also kind of not surprising. Like, I know that he has the science aspect, in common, but with Chapel, but I think La'an is a better fit just because they're both stoic. And I think that lends to a better whatever happens kind of scenario.
And by the way, we're going live with these shows now for Union Federation here with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. If you're watching this live, let us know what you think. Put them in the comments, and we appreciate that. So, all right, guys. Well, we also have next some Star Trek trivia. Thought we could take a little back and forth here, guys, on reading the trivia. And I thought, Kyle, why don't you go ahead and do the first one with us here?
Yeah, during the holodeck recreation, Jess Bush used her natural accent for the holodeck character she was portraying, which, that always throws you off a little bit when you start hearing them use their natural accent, like Maggie Cohen in Walking Dead, when you realize, oh my gosh, she's British after hearing a Southern accent from her for years.
Your thoughts, Haley? Look like you had a comment there.
No, I just loved it. Mwah. I loved it. I thought it was great because it just lended more drama to the character. So no, it's perfect.
Haley, why don't you go ahead and read number 2 for us there?
Yeah. Spock claims he is a descendant of the author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This claim was first mentioned in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, where Spock claimed an ancestor of mine coined a quote from Conan Doyle.
I like that they do those nods to Star Trek Before Us to kind of keep that going a little bit. So I thought that was a very cool thing. All right, I got the next one here. This is the first time since Star Trek Voyager 1995 that the show centered around the holodeck has been a main problem for the crew. And I had to go back and research this. And I guess the last time we had a really bad problem for the holodeck was Star Trek Voyager, The Killing Game, Part 1 and 2, which aired in the 4th season. In this 2-part episode, the Hirogen capture Voyager and turn the ship into a massive holodeck using the crew in various hunting scenarios. It was a good 2-parter. I remember that one. That was a good one. Kyle, hit us up with the next bit of trivia.
So the blooper reel at the end of this episode shows Paul Wesley, who normally plays Kirk in the series, trying to swing his leg over the back of the command chair on set. This has become known as the Riker maneuver. And in important sense, Jonathan Frakes, who played Will Riker, directed the episode in season 2. The same thing happened when Jack Quaid, playing Brad Boimler, attempted the Riker maneuver in Those Old Scientists.
I recently watched an interview, which I'll bring up later, with Jonathan Frakes talking about this episode. And there was a lot of fun on the set regarding this. So, and the one apparently with Jack Quaid, when he said Riker, he said that was improvised and they kept it in the episode, which I thought was funny. But yeah, look
that
at him
chair is way too tall for the Riker maneuver.
I know, but I love that he broke it too, which is great.
the blooper reels, I think, just again, it was a great, here's this last frontier, like I said, if the whole episode was that, I'm down. And then to end it with the bloopers was just that was great. It was perfect.
All right. Let's go next here. Is this Haley? Why don't you hit us next? Speaking of.
Kirk's holodeck captain character says he is known for his diction. William Shatner, the original Captain Kirk, is so well known for his diction that it is called a Shatnerism. Yes, the term Shatnerism or Shatner-esque refers to the unique and often parodied speaking style of actor William Shatner. It is characterized by his tendency to use dramatic pauses and a somewhat staccato delivery, particularly when playing Captain James T. Kirk in the Star Trek original series.
Which he has famously admitted because it allowed him to remember what the script was when he may have forgotten for a fraction of a second.
Yes. Which I love in the bloopers. They're like, you don't care. You never read the script anyways. Stop talking it like that. You don't even know what it's about. And it was perfect. That was just great.
Kyle, do you want to hit the next one here? Number 6. This is a good one.
Sure. In the holodeck scenes, the producers of the show The Last Frontier were said to have been divorced. The original production company of Star Trek, the original series, was Desilu Studios, which was founded by Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. They were divorced by the time Star Trek, the original series, premiered in 1966. On a side note, Lucille Ball played a significant role in the survival of Star Trek, particularly by greenlighting a second pilot episode after the first was rejected by NBC. She also personally intervened to ensure the show continued production, even when her own production company, Desilu, was hesitant due to the show's high costs.
So remember that. We were saved. Star Trek was saved by Lucy. All right.
Wait, Kevin, does that equal Eva Longoria saving John Wick too?
You know what? I would say Eva's right there around second, but I'm gonna give it to Lucille Ball. But yeah, if it wasn't for her, we would have lost John Wick for sure. So yeah. All right, next I got this one here. In the holodeck scenes, T.K. Bellows, the creator of the show The Last Frontier, appears as a character of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, and that was definitely been confirmed by Frakes himself as well, that they wanted to kind of have a little fun with that. So go ahead and get the last one that we have here of trivia, Haley.
The USS Adventure's saucer section resembles Star Trek Online's T6 Avenger battlecruiser, which is an alternate skin of the Arbiter battlecruiser. I kind of thought it was giving like a Voyager feel a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And I'll tell you right now, I'll buy that toy. Make it, please. I'll hang it up right over here. Seriously, that US Adventure here is so darn cool, and I love the colors too. That kind of red and actually, Kyle, 70s. I think like that more than I would because it's Chiefs colors.
Well, Chiefs colors it's the Flash.
That's true. It's got Flash colors.
Very 70s. Very 70s.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the second away mission here, guys. All right, we are discussing, of course, here Strange New World, Season 3, Episode 4, A Space Adventure Hour. Let's go ahead and get into the main discussion here, guys. And I want to first of all start by giving a shout out to blogtrekcore.com. I like finding fun articles that they have there. And they had a nice article there done by Alex Perry. Star Trek Strange New World serves up its take on the classic holodeck episode, borrowing the conceits from Star Trek's most famous holodeck episodes to give the crew of the USS Enterprise a noir murder mystery episode and lovingly spoof the original Star Trek. And I loved it. Quote, A Space Adventure Hour is part holodeck episode, complements elements of The Big Goodbye, Elementary Dear Data, and Our Man Bashir. And every episode where the holodeck safeties stopped working, but the crew had to keep running the program. It's also a loving spoof to the original Star Trek, but with a deeper message about the franchise's legacy. Paul Wesley provides the most dialed-up imitation and exaggeration of William Shatner's Kirk performance with his hollow character Maxwell Saint, while T.K. Bellows, Anson Mount, is a Gene Roddenberry-esque tortured creator of The Last Frontier, and Sonny Lupino, played by Rebecca Romaine, parallels Lucille Ball. There's no subtlety here. The Last Frontier is Trek. So my first topic to you guys and question goes along with this. Like Subspace Rhapsody last season, A Space Adventure Hour is going to elicit a polarized response with fan reactions at an extreme of love it or hate it spectrum, particularly in how they view The Last Frontier, the Star Trek stand-in that the show's plot revolves around. So I ask you guys, and for you, the listeners and viewers out there, how does this holodeck episode rank in your Star Trek fandom compared to previous Star Trek adventures? Haley, I'm going to start with you.
And this is good because I haven't even thought about it. So I'm going to have to think. You know, I am such a big fan of, Elementary Dear Data. I love when Geordi and Data go into the holodeck and become Holmes and Watson. And I love me a good murder mystery like any other white woman in this country. Just kidding. I've loved it well before all the podcasts and everybody else started to love it. So I've been on this journey way longer. But, I think this was really a brilliant way to showcase the holodeck before we really see the holodeck. TNG used it a lot. Deep Space Nine uses it a lot. I mean, as far as a holodeck episode, it's probably going to come in my top 10, not in my top 5, because there's some Deep Space Nine ones. Like, I love Our Man Bashir, but I love, and pardon me, listeners, I always forget episode titles. When Nog goes in after, and he's struggling with PTSD after he loses his leg. I love that one. I think it is such a great commentary on how you can lose yourself in something that is good for a moment, but you can really get yourself lost into it. So this is definitely my top 10.
Gotcha. Kyle, what say you? How did they handle the holodeck things go wrong, theme that we've seen so much and done so well in Star Trek past?
I think they did a decent job with it. I'm like Haley though. I think there's some Next Gen and DS9 holodeck episodes that are just so phenomenally well done that this one it might crack the top 10, but it's not going to crack the top 5. I think they had a lot of fun with it. You could tell they were having fun with it. I think maybe one of the issues I kind of had with this, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is where in the timeline it falls for Trek with the holodeck. It felt like it was a little soon to be having this holodeck technology. And then as far as like just the real world, I kind of wish this episode would have come out about 2 more episodes later. It felt like it was an awful quick turnaround to have another kind of silly off-the-wall episode as episode 4 when we just had one in episode 2. I would have liked to have seen it spread out a little bit more as maybe a break between heavier episodes. But that's just me and my thinking. But I think it was definitely a fun episode. I liked it. I think they paid tribute to Trek very well, and I think they had fun with it, and that's the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Kyle. That it's not like a top episode of Holodeck Adventures. Our Man Bashir is definitely a good one, and we've got with Moriarty, and TNG, and I that one with Voyager, the 2-part one, was a good one as well. But it does give the cast and crew of this show a chance to kind of do something fun and do something different. And at the same time, I love the nods to Star Trek's past, and I thought that was a kind of a fun little tribute. Where it dropped, I see where you're coming from. It was kind of interesting to see kind of a nice fun episode after one we've had already. I don't, looking once we get the season done with, we'll be curious. I'm gonna kind of figure out or decide for myself if we should have waited on this episode, because we don't know where exactly it's supposed to be in the timeline. But you could say though that it had to be done because of the romance that's happening between Lon and Spock, because that was teased subtly in the last one, The Wedding Bell Blues. So when things do get more tense, where does that relationship go? But we'll hit that a little bit later. Let's hit the next topic here, guys. And this is going to be a 2-part question I'll have for you. The article says, quote, "The Space Adventure Hour is a wild episode, and director Jonathan Frakes takes a number of big swings in parroting Star Trek in all of its goofy glory in a loving way. The sets resemble those of the original series, and the characters on screen and off have a direct connections to important Star Trek luminaries." So I want to ask a 2-part question here. First of all, the first part I'll ask you guys is, How did this episode, in your opinion, pay tribute to Star Trek? What was some of your favorite nods to Star Trek? Start with you, Haley.
You know, the set, like it just makes me automatically think of TOS. For this, the Last Frontier, the costumes, we get Jess Bush, she mentions that, oh, I knew that something was up because my skirt kept getting shorter and my lines kept getting shorter. And, and so this evolution of the show. And I also love, and I forget who her character ends up being in the hologram, but Uhura's character, how she talks about this is evolution, like this is so revolutionary, like it gives people hope, and why wouldn't you want to keep something on, is so very much in part with what happened with TOS.
Good point.
And,
glad you brought that up. Yeah,
it's amazing, like her little speech to Lon, and talking about, like, I didn't kill anybody. Why would I do that? This show is going to bring so much hope. And, some kid is going to dream about doing stuff like that. And the fact that TOS led into so many people, astronauts and physicists and scientists that work with NASA and different things like that, were so inspired by Star Trek, the original series, that they ended up doing the things that they ended up doing because they thought, I could do that, or I want to do that, and I want this kind of future. And so I love that aspect, that they brought that in, because that is stuff that we as fans talk about, that even us, we're inspired by it in some capacity in our life. And, she talked about, generations of these kids, and the show could go on and on and on. And it was so on the nose and so poignant. I think that was the best aspect of it. Like, that was just my favorite part of it.
What about you, Kyle? What were some of your favorite nods to Star Trek past that they showcased in this episode?
I think for me, the big thing was they took the Star Trek past and they honored it, but they also accepted the silliness that people embraced with the original series. I mean, you remember Saturday Night Live comedy skits and different comedy skits, and they took it to a whole nother level with this Last Frontier, and they had fun with it, but they still held a level of respect for the original series and the history of the original series, a history a lot of people don't really know, and especially in these current generations. And maybe it makes them go back and look at it a little bit too, and see what is going on, what the history of Trek really is, especially the original era of the original series, because I think there's a lot of modern day Trek fans who haven't really gone back to that and fully dove into it, because they kind of always say, oh, I started with Next Generation, or maybe I started with Discovery or something along those lines, or even the new movies with Chris Pine and all of them. So I think this is Strange New World's way of really paying tribute to the original series, and they do a phenomenal job of it every week, but you add in the Jonathan Frakes factor into it as well, and it took it to a whole new level.
Well said, Kyle, and I agree. It's one of those things where when we see, even if it's just really subtle and it's not as obvious as this episode is, a nod to something we've seen before, not necessarily something that's in canon or something like that, but maybe something that someone says, or a way of, as subtle as something a set might look, or a line that someone might say. But this one obviously was just very in your face in the best way. And I think that, when it comes to like the some of the sound effects was great, and the doors opening, the whoosh noise that you heard, and just little things like that were really, really cool. And also too, I guess we had to get kind of a beginning holodeck type of origin here, where, we find out at the end that it wasn't quite ready. And so let's table it for now discussion that Pike says. I thought that was kind of cool. And what's funny too, is when I was playing this episode and it ended, it actually took me right into the Cage episode, which I hadn't seen in a long time. And I just let it play. And it was interesting watching that first episode, and then I'm hearing those sound effects that I just heard in this episode, and the look and the way of the set. And, it was just, and Pike was saying something like he wasn't like used to having a woman on the bridge, and then like number one kind of looks over her shoulder and giving him that look, and and just little things like that. Just call outs to that. But the second two-part of this question I have for you guys is, and I want to give a shout out first of all to a YouTube channel here called Strange New Takes with Jonathan Frakes, and they had him on as a special guest. And if you search Strange New Takes with Jonathan Frakes, you will see the video there, and it's Open Pike Night with Jonathan Frakes, as they also called it as well. And they interviewed him, and there's a behind the picture scene here of him and one of the cast members in their outfit. So I got to ask the big question here, guys. We love, that Jonathan Frakes has been directing Star Trek for a while now. He's also been directing the other show that we cover here, of course, which is the Orville. So Jonathan Frakes has directed 2 Star Trek movies and 21 Star Trek episodes across various series. He's directed Star Trek First Contact and Insurrection. His directorial work on television includes 8 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, 3 of Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and of course several episodes of Discovery, Picard, and now Strange New Worlds. So Haley, the question is he like the best Star Trek director ever?
Yes. Yes. And because I don't know if you guys watched The Librarian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He directed that, and phenomenal. Like, I just no.
Are you talking about one of the 3? Are you talking about one of the 3 movies or some of the episodes?
No, the episodes. He was part of
gotcha.
the series.
Okay.
And
based off the Noah Wiley movies.
Yeah. And
those.
those are fantastic. And so I would say so. I mean, obviously he's got a gift, and I think that lending of being in TNG, he understands the dynamics, and he understands what those fans who are particular, because you have your fans that are particular about certain things, that the fans who are particular about how a scene is shot and what's involved in it and what's in the scene and what's not in the scene is really important. And I think just because he's done so much, he understands and he gets it. And it's brilliant. And I'm sure, I can only imagine, I want to be the fly on the wall, just listening to all the fun on set when he is there filming, because hijinks ensue, I have no doubt.
Kyle, what say you? Is Jonathan Frakes the best Star Trek director?
I'm going to say this. Jonathan Frakes currently is the best ambassador for Star Trek, not as well as director. There is no other actor, director, anything out there that I think truly gets all aspects of Star Trek like Jonathan Frakes does. But the great thing about Jonathan Frakes is he does it in a way where you know how much respect he has for science fiction, for Star Trek, but he's also willing to step back and say, we're going to have fun with this too. We're going to take chances. We're going to enjoy ourselves while we're doing this. Yes, we're going to pay reverence. We're going to have these tributes, but we're going to have a damn lot of fun with it too. And if I dare anybody to go back to watch any episode that Jonathan Frakes has directed of Orville, Star Trek, anything science fiction, and not say, not only did I really enjoy that episode, and it could have been very poignant, but I had a damn good time watching that episode too, because Frakes just gets it. And I think he's kind of one of these underappreciated people in science fiction, and in the aspect, unless you're a diehard science fiction fan, a lot of people still probably don't fully understand the importance of Jonathan Frakes. And I think that's a bit of a shame. I think Jonathan Frakes should be so much more known in the general public and Hollywood eye than what he is. And I hope he gets his props eventually, but I think he is one of the most important people in science fiction. I'll say it, in the last 50 years.
It's a bold statement, and I can't argue with that, Kyle. I'm a huge fan of Jonathan Frakes, and I think that he is a wonderful ambassador to Star Trek. And that's a great point you just said. And I just want to give a shout out, including all of the Star Trek stuff he's done, and other stuff that's not Star Trek. I remember one of the first films that he did was Clock Stoppers from 2002, the Jesse Bradford film, where a teenager accidentally activates a wristwatch that enables him to stop time. If you guys have seen that film, fun adventure film, make sure that you check that out. That is a great movie that he has also directed. So back to this interview, I highly recommend that you check it out, search for it. And in that 10-minute interview that he does, he touches on the holodeck hijinks, Shatner impressions, directing outtakes, and balancing tones in the delightful retro Trek tale. Whether you're a Riker diehard or behind-the-scenes buff, this 10 minutes is well spent. And he also touches on the fact that there was a lot more bloopers that were done that were unintentional, that were filmed and caught, that he talked about that it would make a great gag reel. So hopefully we'll get to see those behind the scenes or something like that, because obviously they had a lot of fun doing the outtakes that we did see during the credits there. So, all right, let's get on to the next topic here, guys. We're going to wrap things up with topic number 3. La'an and Spock romance. It's kicking in here, guys. Me personally, yes, please bring more of this. I love it. I love what's going on here. Haley, you kind of mentioned, and I Chapel not working out. Obviously, we thought we had something there, but La'an was there to kind of see what was happening and how romantic that Spock can be. And then you do the dance, the forbidden dance. It's sexy. Your thoughts on this budding romance here between La'an and Spock?
Well, you called it. I was like, maybe. Maybe it'll happen, but we all know I'm just not that type.
I was really pushing for it.
I know. Well, and again, like I said, I think there's aspects, to La'an that is similar to Spock, and I think their personalities mesh well together. They have shared similar interests, despite she's more security and things like that. But I think this was just a nice episode. It was a nice way to put it in. Also, I'm going to mention, at first, I did not realize that the holodeck Spock was not actually Spock. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but at first I was like, wait, and then I was like, when he got shot, I was like, I don't think that's actually Spock. But anyway, I digress. I'm here for the ride, so we'll see what happens.
Kyle, what about you?
Ethan Peck has the greatest job on the planet. Let's just be clear right now. Oh, you're going to be Spock. Great. You're just going to play this iconic character. You're going to get to have a relationship with every beautiful woman that comes on Trek. And you're going to probably become a more of a Lothario than even Kirk by the end of this Strange New World show. I mean, Spock is batting 1,000 at this point, and I think this is one of the more intriguing ones because Haley hit it. Leanne is very much logic-driven in her own right, or just very narrow-minded focus. And I think, even though I feel like this is a bit of a rebound relationship too, you have two people who are very similar who are reaching out to each other and in different places too, because I think they're trying to show that we're seeing a different side of Leanne as she's pulling away from her own Gorn obsession and her own fears. And you've got Spock still trying to figure out his own emotions. And I think this is one of the more fun things of Strange New Worlds, because I think when it's all said and done, it's going to lead us more to that Spock who is much more logical that we see in the original series and the early films, and not so emotional because of these kind of experiences that he's going through on this show with romance and other things. This is an intriguing matchup of characters, and I'm really curious to see which direction it's going to go. I mean, is it going to turn into something more, or is this going to be something with these two characters? Oh no, we can't do this because of how they are. So I think it's interesting to see how this is going to play out.
I've seen a lot of dance competitions in my life, and I've watched, the dance shows and stuff like that, and even some of the professional ones. And there's, especially when they get to some of the sexier dances, and you're always wondering, like, if you don't know if they're a couple or not, you're going like, yeah, I think they're hitting it, And I mean, if you look at this picture here, they're kissing, and they just did the dance. The bed's right there. I mean, come on, it's just like, yeah. They're hitting it. I mean, they have to be after that. Just gonna say it, and I'm here for it. As you said, Haley, I'm here for the ride. Let's see it. Let's see what happens. I'll be watching this relationship very, very closely. So yeah, especially when if there is something there, and Chapel's kind of like starting to figure out, or other people are starting to figure out, does Chapel get jealous? So I'm kind of curious about that, because this couple's definitely they're hotter. Hotter in the way that they're dancing and they're showing, especially when Spock's like, I thought it was just me, and she looks up and then they kiss. I'm like, I gotta take a minute. Okay, anyway, back to it. All right, guys. The final topic we have is just general discussion. If you have any other comments, topics, or observations that you'd like to share, and I'd like to throw to you guys want to talk about the bloopers, I'm here for that as well, because those were very, very funny. Haley, is there something you'd like to bring to the table?
Again, yeah, I like this evolution that we're getting with Scotty, and I'm so excited for it, because I loved in this episode when Una, she talks to him at the end, after he's like, can I put a little footnote in about the holodeck? And Captain Pike's is really small, that. And I want to, you really could say, because we know in TNG that the holodeck does have its own computer. It runs on its own system that is completely separate from the ship. And that's essentially what Scotty was saying, is that it has to be separate. It needs its own powering source. It needs its own computer system that is completely separate from the ship. And, after Pike and Lon leave, number one says, how many people we have on this ship? And, he looks confused, because I think he's not enmeshed quite yet with the crew. We've seen him interact with some of the main cast, but he's not fully immersed in the crew with everybody at this point. And he's confused. And she says 203. We have, 203 exceptional officers on this ship, and no one is alone. And it's okay to ask for help. And
that was a great moment. I'm glad you brought that up. I really enjoyed that moment. Yeah.
I really love that, and I appreciated that. And Una says, myself and the captain, we highly value people coming and asking for help and saying when they need help. And earlier we see Scotty, and he's nervous, trying to, get his attention, and hypothetically, and then he's like, that wasn't hypothetically. And she's like, yeah, I caught on like really quickly. Yeah. And I'm hoping he gets to this point where he does understand that it's okay to ask for help. And I know that resonates with me personally immensely, just because I struggle doing that myself. And so I really appreciated these moments again, where we are seeing these characters in a TV show. It's not real, but again, it's that holding a mirror to things that so many people can see in themselves. And that's something we all appreciate about Star Trek, is just that mirror that it holds up to us. And so I hope, if other people like myself struggle with asking for help, we can be on this journey with Scotty and know that it's okay, that we don't have to do it all by ourselves. And we don't have to run around and, nervously ask for help and not be so self-conscious about it.
Well said. Kyle, any topics you'd like to bring to the table before we head on to the last stuff?
I would just like to say that Paramount, we watch Strange New Worlds on a streaming service behind a paywall. You're not tight for TV time or anything like that. There is no excuse for a 20-minute blooper reel to not be put up on Paramount Plus right now. That we can watch all the bloopers from this episode.
All the bloopers.
That's a good point, and I should mention too, the paywall. I believe that they've made this show available on YouTube and some other free areas for people to dive into to watch. I think they knew they had something special with this, and they wanted to make sure. But yeah, we need that now. We could have talked about it right now, and maybe we will. But yeah, you're right, Kyle. That's a good point.
Ortega's like pushing the door because it doesn't open.
Yeah,
just so brilliant.
This is Union Federation. We're discussing Star Trek Strange New Worlds, episode 4 of season 3, a space adventure hour. Let's go ahead and talk about our cast and guest star discussion here, guys. And The question I have for you for this particular episode is, who is your episode cast or guest star MVP? I did want to remind you, of course, that this is directed by Jonathan Frakes, and the writers were Dana Horgan and Catherine Lynn. So, Haley, I'm going to go to you. Who is your cast or guest star MVP and why?
Oh gosh. I'm putting you in a spot. I have to say it was a small thing, but Babs this week.
Yeah.
I loved this like hippie, I'm here for the arts and I want people to find their art, their passion, and I'm putting this artist salon and he's got the afro. It just was great. So it was
Kyle,
so small, but it was just perfect.
That's a good call out. Kyle, who's your MVP of this episode?
There's not even a question of who the MVP of it. It is Paul Wesley as Kirk. First of all, you had to think when they told him, okay, we need you to go full Kirk on this episode, and he nailed it perfectly. I mean, just how he was in the opening few minutes as the spoof of Kirk was amazing, and his character was just so much fun, and you could tell he enjoyed playing it so over the top. He was phenomenal in this episode, and he was just so much fun. And people who have knocked him in the past, watch this episode because you're gonna fall in love with this actor because he was just great here.
A good call. That's my MVP as well, Kyle. And also too, that interview with Frakes on that episode that I told you about on YouTube. He talked about and confirmed that it was Shatner actually approves of Paul Wesley as this Captain James T. Kirk, this version of it. And I love that Paul just got into it, and especially at the end when you see the bloopers, he's like doing like the weird like it was almost like the Zoolander blue steel look, where he's like looking in there and seeing how he's looking, he's messing with the hair and everything. That was great.
Kevin, there could be an argument made that the tango is the MVP of the episode too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, this is true. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up here, guys. All right, this is Union Federation episode 221, and we are discussing Star Trek Strange New World season 2 episode 4, a space adventure hour here on the Union Federation podcast. And of course, we've got some other episodes coming up here. We will tease the name on this one. Haley, cover your ears. There you go. Season 3, episode 5 through the lens of time. Episode 5. So that's what we got next. But I want to ask you guys your final thoughts here on this episode of Strange New Worlds Space Adventure Hour. Let's start with you, Haley.
No, I think this was perfect. This was a perfect Star Trek episode. If you're going off of the original series and just that lesson and on the nose, and someone I was talking with mentioned the commentary about AI and what that's going to do to change things and everything. I think this was just absolutely brilliant. A commentary on Hollywood of the time in the 60s and how it was to be a writer on a new show. They talk about Westerns and that Westerns were all the rage. And it's true. This sci-fi genre was something kind of new, and it took a lot of guts and courage for everyone involved to keep it going. And, where would we be if they hadn't pushed so much? And who knows what things could be like. I mean, we might not have everything that we have now with Star Trek. And so I just appreciate that. I think it's just brilliant episode.
Well said. Kyle, what say you about a space adventure? Ow.
Well, after thinking long and hard about this and developing my dictation over how I would discuss this episode, I have decided Strange New Worlds has way too much fun. These guys are a blast. They have so much fun. They come up creative. Frakes is always great. I love the fact that he has such a great relationship with this cast of Strange New Worlds. The only thing I can really knock on this episode, and I don't even consider it a knock, it's I guess how the rest of the season's going to play out, like we talked about a little bit earlier. It just felt a little soon to have such another silly type episode after we just had one in episode 2 as well. I would have liked to see this maybe come out a little bit later and give us a break. But like Kevin said too, we have the whole romance thing going on. Ethan Peck, you're my new hero. But what just a fun episode, and you could tell that everybody was into it, and who better to direct it than Jonathan Frakes, who always makes it fun on set.
Well said. I agree with both of you guys. You can tell this cast is gelling, and they're having fun, and I can't wait to see what happens with the rest of the season. And I know things are probably going to get darker, as they always do, especially maybe more of the Gorn threat. But this was a lot of fun, and it was also nice to know that they filmed away from the set as well. They found this really nice like hotel where we saw a lot of the whodunit scenes, which I thought was really, really cool. And I love it when they get out of the box a little bit and do some location shooting. So that was a lot of fun. But guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Let's get some subspace signals going on here. All right, this is a Union Federation podcast, both on Fandom Podcast Network and the BQN. Fandom Podcast Network is also on Blue Sky, as well as X, Instagram. So make sure you guys check us out. We're at fpnet.podbean.com. That's a master feed for all of our FPN shows. Also, make sure you check out our Union Federation Facebook group as well, where we're both discussing and talking about, of course, Star Trek and the Orville. Kyle, how can we get a hold of you, sir?
You can find me, of course, all over Facebook with the Fandom Podcast Network and all the great group pages there. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at @KyleFandom. You can find me on Blue Sky and Twitter at @KyleW. And just, again, for all of our wonderful listeners out there, too, if you're hanging out with anybody from Lower Decks, when they say just drink it and don't ask, be very wary.
Also, I just want to remind people, too, you can also follow BQN on Instagram, Blue Sky, and also check out their BQN Collective Listeners group as well. Kyle?
I also, too, make sure all you guys who are going to STLV next weekend have a wonderful time.
Say hi to Amy for us, too. So she's getting ready for that. So, yeah. Haley, how can we get a hold of you?
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Trekkie01D. And again, I'm always back in the corner, but sometimes I move it up. So you never know where I'm going to be in the Facebook group. Just saying.
Awesome.
We know too much about corners around here, Haley. You better specify.
My name is Kevin. You can find me on all the socials at Spartan_Phoenix and on Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix. And go ahead and give us some love over at TeePublic. Search Fandom Podcast Network. Get yourself a Union Federation t-shirt. You can also get the red shirt version if you like as well. There's a lot of cool apparel that you can get your logos on with Union Federation and all of our other shows. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. Thank you to Kyle. Thank you to Haley. Appreciate you guys very, very much. And as we always say here on Union Federation, live long and prosper. And without a doubt, we are the weirdest ship in the fleet. We'll see you next week, guys. Join us live and give us a shout out in the comments, too. We can share them on the show. We'll see you guys next week.